haven't seen a projection for Nate and George in terms of pay-per-views. I just know that I bought it 4 times. I know that I did my part. I not only bought it 4 times, I got 4 receipts, which is a little bit annoying. Like, not for nothing, but if you're UFC Fight Pass and somebody's buying it repeatedly, there should be something where you catch that. You should not let the person buy it repeatedly. So, 4 purchases, 2 from Fight Pass, 2 from DAZN. One of those terribly ran apps finally lets me in. All right. So, did you have a similar experience? And then I can't even tweet out my frustration, which will generally get me a response back pretty quickly, because my Twitter's been hacked and I don't have control of it. All right, but this is my weekend. So I get 4 receipts. Not only, and it's very relevant that I'm telling you that, not only do they let me buy it repeatedly without having the technology to post it, not only do they do that, they have a back end that recognizes the same guy on the same card bought it. They should not have that. And the companies that do have it, not for nothing, it's not on accident. They're playing the game of how many times can we get the same guy to buy it and then see who calls in and complains. Okay. So, would you redo it? Would you redo it? If you had the power to make the suggestion, would you redo it? I don't know. I don't know about that. And this lies the game of promotion. Right? Right here. When so many people, you have talked many times, either a fighter's not paid enough or the contracts are not fair. You've done this on and on without having any idea what you're talking about, but you have done this. But now you're seeing it from the other side. You're seeing, let's say you really wanted to do a rematch. Let's say you're coming to the table and you're going, yes, Chael, my answer to that is yes, absolutely. Best fight I've seen. Clearly the audience was engaged. They moved the date, they fumbled the bag as badly as you can, and they still sold out 18,000 people. Like, you would be right on all of those things. That seems like a very strong metric. And if there's ever a match to redo, it's the one that drew more the second time than it did the first time. Oh, and by the way, both times was extremely fun to watch. Like, I hear everything that you're saying. But this is where you get confronted with the other side, which is these guys aren't on multi-fight contracts. These guys are free and clear. As a matter of fact, if you wanted to bring them together because you had information and you had numbers that made sense to do it a third time, you're going to have to start from scratch with the negotiation. And the second that you call them to let them know you're interested in doing it again, they don't have to know how well the second one did. They just know it did really well because you want to do it again. You're stuck. You're never going to get them to agree to it. Now, the other side of the coin is to do what a successful promotion has done, which is you do multi-fight deals. You don't play checkers, you play chess. I set this fight up to tell a story to get over here. But when you're getting off the ground and you don't have multiple venues, you don't have multiple dates, you don't have multiple athletes under contract, it just changes what you're able to do. It changes your motivation to do it, your ability to do it. So I'm just asking you a simple question. Would you redo that? Now, I thought it was a great fight. I thought Jorge Masvidal had a massive opportunity at the end of that fight to get the rematch. And the numbers did surprise me. When I was watching that match, I thought Nate's running away with this thing. And I was so impressed with Nate for simple things. He won the first round. And while that might sound, why is that impressive? Well, just tell me the last time Nate did. Like, Nate will feel you out for sure. There is a feel out process and that guy gets going. He gets revved up and he gets going. But 10 rounds, as much of a cardio machine as you think Nate is, all these things that you believe about Nate, you've never seen him do 10 rounds. He's never been scheduled for 10 rounds, regardless of the way your memory tells it. The Jake Paul fight was only 8, just for example. So for Nate to come out and have his foot down on that gas and not only win the first round, but dominate, walk him down. Whoa. This is a different Nate. And it was fun. And I really thought that Nate kept that momentum going and he ran with the fight. But if we get around round 7 or 8, I'm watching it with Cowboy Steve, and he finally speaks up. After every round, I go, wow, look at Nate. Wow, look at Nate. Oh, my God, look at Nate. Nate's going to stop him. Look at Nate pressure. I'm talking like this. And Cowboy Steve finally says, Chael, I'm not sure we're watching the same fight. Not only is Nate not running through George like you keep commentating, I think George is winning. Really? Sitting back? What are you talking about? Well, there was things once I got called out. Like, the whole world becomes so clear. Have you ever had those situations? Like everything gets clear once somebody else tells you. And George Masvidal was doing 2 things. He was standing his ground. Now, he was not pressuring Nate backwards like they did at Madison Square Garden. He was standing his ground. But he was also ripping to the body. I mean, it was an absurd amount of power that George Masvidal was getting. Don't forget, George is orthodox. By tradition, every fight you've seen George in, he has been orthodox. So when he switches to southpaw, he's going to be off. His rhythm's going to be off. His timing and power is going to be off. His lead hand, that's the one he was ripping to the body. I mean, I'm just sharing with you. I don't know how he got that much power. It was really quite impressive. And those shots do matter. They're just harder to see. It's one of those, you can see them once you start looking for them. Okay. Now, I tell you this because 3 more rounds go by. This fight is over. It's going to be a unanimous decision, Nate Diaz, by massacre. But not according to the other half of my living room. Now, Cowboy Steve's final analysis, he did give it to Diaz. But he wanted to hear the announcement. Whereas I thought we can all get up and go home. The party's over. Nate ran away with it. That's what I thought. Now, I'm telling you that because while we're waiting for the announcement, they throw up the strike count. And it was a heck of a lot closer to what Steve saw than what I saw. And the overall punches did go to Nate, but not by as much as I felt like I watched. I mean, I felt like Nate hit him 4-1. And then the overall power shots that Steve was able to see, and I was around the 7th round, went to George. And I just tell you that because this was a great fight. Can we agree? It was a lot of fun to watch. And they now go 1 apiece. And the crowd clearly had an appetite for it. And was this the kind of feud where we now have resolution? And that's one of the things. If you're ever looking to do a feud or you're looking to do a match and or a rematch, one thing that you cannot have, you cannot conclude, and you can conclude that on a microphone, you can conclude that with body language. You can conclude that on something you don't know is on camera where you look over to your cornerman and you go, you do any kind of a language, boom. That's the visual. That's the image. These two's gripe is settled. The only reason you go to 3 is because we don't have resolution. Now, I'm sharing that with you. Do you feel that there's resolution between Nate and Masvidal? In some ways, right? But they had to tell a story right there. And Nate was interested in stating his MMA goals, and Nate's got this thing with Jake Paul, which, in all fairness, Nate's call out of Jake Paul completely changed. And Nate's sincerity and desire to fight and defeat Jake Paul completely changed once he beat Masvidal, because Nate was saying the same things about Masvidal, and I don't know how much we believed it. Nate was saying ever since that first one at Madison Square Garden, that was wrong. I had 2 rounds left. I want that rematch. He was saying those things, but I don't know how much we believed it as much as just, okay, this is what he's saying because this is the direction he's going. He's trying to get himself ready for battle. But once he defeated George, which clearly took an incredible amount of mental discipline, and he showed up physically better than he's ever been. I'm telling you, that did change the call out. And all of a sudden you go, oh, wait, Nate's sincere. Nate wants to get some back. Nate is willing to sacrifice and get better and work harder, and he really does want to beat Jake Paul. I'm just sharing that it seemed as though Nate went in a different direction. And when George got the microphone, he knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to get match 3 ready, right? Like, George is smart enough at this sport to understand when one fight ends, the marketing for the next fight begins right then. And he did understand it. But he was tired. He was exhausted. He said his piece. And then he collected himself. But now the microphone's gone. He did collect himself. Like when you saw that thing where George was going across the ring and he's going to get into it with those guys, that was the marketing for the next fight. It just came along a few seconds too late. So, I'm just asking, would you rematch him? Would you bring him back? Do you think there was enough there? Do you want to see those guys fight a third time? It's not a trick question. It's a simple question. Leave me a comment below.